So welcome to our Get SFU Ready session for new international undergraduate students, and a huge congratulations on your acceptance to SFU. If you are still waiting to hear about the status of your application, we wish you the very best with it, and we hope that you will hear the good news soon. We are so pleased that you have chosen SFU as part of your academic journey, and we sincerely hope that your experience here will far exceed your expectations. For those of you who may be watching the recording later, please note that the auto caption functionality may not be 100% accurate. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that Simon Fraser University is located on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Katzie, Coquitlam, Kaikai, Kwantlen, Similarmu, and Tsawwassen nations. So what I've just shared is a land acknowledgement, and some students in the audience might be already familiar with the concept of land acknowledgements, while it might be something new for others. So we acknowledge the land to honor the indigenous people who have lived and worked on this land historically and presently. So the focus of today's session will be on immigration and medical insurance requirements that you will need for the duration of your studies at SFU. However, we will also highlight some student services units and academic resources that you can explore for any questions that you may have outside of the topics that you see on the screen here. So if you have any questions regarding your application status or your admission offer, you will have to contact undergraduate admissions. I have also included the deferral deadlines for your reference, but if you are thinking about deferring your start term, you will have to contact the admissions team. And if you're planning to live on campus and you have any questions about your housing applications or any move-in instructions, you will have to contact SFU Residence and Housing. And then if you're thinking about renting a place off campus, the SFU Residence website also has some resources about where you can find housing off campus. So SFU's official off-campus housing partner is this organization named Places for Students. So they actually list out rental properties online, like close to where the different SFU campuses are. And then if you are thinking about renting off campus, I highly recommend that you attend this Tenants' Rights and Responsibilities info session that will be taking place on November 30th. It is a virtual session, so you can join us from anywhere you may be located. It is really informative, as you will learn about a wide range of topics, everything from how rental agreements work in BC to what your rights are as a tenant and what the basis, what grounds are there for like eviction and things like dispute resolution. So if you scan the QR code that you see on the slide, it will directly take you to the registration page, and I highly recommend that you attend it. Academic. So at any point, if you have any questions about course planning or your academic program, and if you run into any academic difficulties, SFU has a team of dedicated academic advisors who will be able to assist you. So international student advisors at International Services for Students are not qualified to provide academic advising. However, once you're admitted and you have your SFU computing ID activated, you can access this platform called Advisor Link. And then you will see your team of academic advisors who will be able to guide you with course planning and other academic inquiries. So through Advisor Link, you can also make appointments with advisors directly so that you can connect with them. And I would also kind of like to get the word out about academic integrity and the importance of it. So all SFU members are expected to uphold the values of academic integrity, such as honesty, trust, fairness, and responsibilities. So this actually extends to the coursework that you will be completing as well. If you have to submit an assignment, essay, that should be your own work. If you're sitting for an exam, that should be your own work as well. So any acts of academic dishonesty can result in serious repercussions. If you find yourself enrolled in a difficult course and you're thinking about hiring a tutor for additional support with coursework, be wary of unethical tutors, especially from private tutoring agencies. So be extremely careful or wary of anyone who is asking for your SFU computing ID or password to help you with tutoring. And you should never, ever give this information out. It should be treated like any other high-risk personal information of yours, such as your email, password, or your banking account information. Sharing this information with others might put you at risk for extortion by unscrupulous individuals who might be disguised as tutors. And if you're looking for any additional support with your coursework, look for the various resources that you have that are available to you within SFU, often at no extra charge. So if you visit this Academic Integrity website, you'll find a lot more about these supports, and also a list of sources to find ethical tutors. The Center for Accessible Learning, or the CAL as we refer to it, so they make every effort to assist students with disabilities so that the students can reach their optimal educational goals. So their disability access advisors can help students establish accommodations such as classroom or exam modifications. So if you're a student with a suspected or a documented disability, please do get in touch with the CAL as early as possible, because you need to have those accommodations established before the term begins. And then if you're curious about any scholarships, bursaries, or work-study options that might be available for international students, you will have to connect with Financial Aid and Awards, as they administer all financial aid. And last but not least, career and volunteer services. So career and volunteer services offer a variety of services related to work search and career development. And they offer things like one-on-one advising, group programs, workshops, and job fairs. So they have a whole team of career professionals, as you can see on this slide, as well as one career specialist dedicated just for international students, Hannah, who was also a member of our team previously. So they will be able to help you with the topics that you see on the screen here and answer any questions that you have related to that. So I'd also like to highlight a couple more transition resources that are available to new students. So welcome guides that you can find on our website. So we understand that international students can be joining SFU in different pathways. So this could be your first time applying to a Canadian university from another country. You could be transferring to SFU from another post-secondary institution, either in BC or outside of the province, or you could have gone to high school in Canada. So we have 5 different tailored guides for the different pathways, and they all come with a downloadable step-by-step checklist of what you should be doing. And this will kind of make sure that you haven't missed any important steps. And University Prep and SFU 101. So there are 3 online courses that have been developed specifically for new students. And this is all to give you an introduction to SFU and help you prepare for your academic transition. So collectively, these courses cover everything from basic course terminology you will hear at SFU to degree planning and informing you about faculty events. You will also have the chance to connect with other students from your faculty as you complete the courses, and this will allow you to make connections before you even start your time at SFU. So we do really encourage you to explore these resources when you get the invitation to access them. And then Narges will now introduce you to another transition support that's available through our office, the Global Connections Program. Over to you, Narges.
Hello, everyone. My name is Narges. I'm a 4th-year communication major and business minor at SFU, but I'm also a student staff, which comes with a staff part. I'm a volunteer and events coordinators at the Global Connections Program. So what is the Global Connections Program? Our program is a student-led program, meaning that we have a group of volunteers and we offer mentorship and events. What is mentorship? It's basically we offer peer support. You will be matched with a mentor who's like one of our volunteers who's been at SFU for a couple years, knows their way around, and they can answer your questions and support your transition into SFU. They also can be a familiar face and friendly face on campus as you move here or like start your journey at SFU. This like peer support is also is also followed by our events. So over the term, we have a couple of different events. We have workshops and social events. Workshops is our collaboration with a campus partner. For example, we had a workshop about like, where can your degree take you? So it's basically career focused. Or we had another one about social media and well-being. It's about well-being and how we can like navigate our lives now that we are all on our phones. We also had like social events. We went to Granville Island for folks who haven't been to Vancouver. It's a touristy place, and it was honestly my first time there too, but it was very cool, and we went around and walked and socialized. We also, on Halloween, we went to a pumpkin patch and we looked around and we had a spooky event. These events also offer you the chance to meet people from other places, other cultures, and make new friends, which is also like a social connection aspect to our program, and intercultural learning. We have both our volunteers and our members are from all over the world, and it's a good chance to learn different perspectives and make new friends. So if you're wondering, is this program for me? The answer is most likely yes. This program is open to SFU undergraduate students who are newly starting at SFU or recently started. And if you're looking for diverse connections and supporting your transition to SFU and want to have that intercultural experience, this is the right place. Beside all these things that, next slide, please. Beside all these things that we offer in terms of social connections and intercultural learning, if you complete the program requirements, which I promise you, they're quite simple, your participation will be recognized on your co-curricular record, which is like an official SFU document that records your involvement in the SFU community, and which is a very cool thing. And you will also receive a certificate of completion and a program t-shirt, which I'm wearing now. The back is cooler, but I cannot show you now. Next slide, please. So if you have any questions, please email us at gcmp@sfu.ca. Me and my colleague Zaina will get back to you with more information. You can also check out our website. And for your information, we are soon opening our membership for the next term, spring 2020 term. So if you are interested in joining us as a member, keep an eye on that. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and we will be posting there when we open our registration. Thank you.
Thanks, Zina. That was a great introduction to the program. And to all the students, I really encourage you to register, because I get updates about all the different upcoming events, and they always sound really, really fun. So thank you again, Narges. And so we will now shift gears to cover medical insurance and supports at SFU. So for this section, you will also hear from Ricky from Health and Counseling Services and Ali from Student Care. So medical insurance, so there are two main types, primary and secondary. So as international students, you must have adequate medical insurance for the entire duration of your studies. And if you have any family members accompanying you, they also need to have adequate medical insurance for their stay in Canada. So medical services can be extremely costly without valid insurance. If you look at the BC MSP website, they quote that a hospital stay alone can exceed $1,000 a day. So it is in your best interest, as well as it's your responsibility, to ensure that you have sufficient medical insurance at all times. So Ricky will kind of explain the difference between primary and secondary medical insurance.
Yes, so primary medical insurance covers medically required services such as doctor's visits, hospital stays, and diagnostic medical testing, such as x-rays. Medical insurance is legally required for all residents of British Columbia, including international students, and is provided through the BC Medical Services Plan, or also known as MSP. BC MSP is administered by a government entity known as Health Insurance BC. Secondary medical insurance generally covers extras that are not covered by primary medical insurance, such as dental services, vision care, and prescription medication. Eligible undergraduate SFU students receive secondary medical insurance through the SFSS Health and Dental Plan. Next slide, please. So focusing on primary medical insurance, this diagram shows a general timeline for primary medical insurance for students who are newly arriving in BC. New students who arrive in BC should apply for BC MSP right away. There is a waiting period of roughly 3 months before your MSP coverage will be in effect. To cover this waiting period, SFU provides a temporary primary medical insurance plan called GuardMe. For students who are starting in spring 2023 semester, your temporary primary insurance coverage through GuardMe will start on January 1st of 2023 and then end on April 30th of 2023. You will be automatically enrolled in GuardMe after course enrollment. Depending on when you arrive in BC, your BC MSP coverage start date will be different. If you apply for BC MSP right away, after you arrive in early January, it will be effective towards the end of your semester, and you may have an overlap period of BC MSP and GuardMe coverages. We will go into a little bit more detail about GuardMe and MSP in the next few slides.
Yeah, so GuardMe plan, as Ricky mentioned, is a temporary primary medical insurance plan. And the goal of the GuardMe plan is to give you access to medical coverage while you're waiting for your BC MSP to be effective. So as an international student at SFU, you will be automatically enrolled in GuardMe only for your first term. So we will not enroll you in any subsequent terms. The cost of the plan is $281 for the term, and it will be posted to your student account as international medical insurance after you complete your course enrollment. And if you have any dependent family members, you can also enroll them at the beginning of the term at an additional cost. So as we mentioned earlier, your GuardMe coverage will be valid from January 1st to April 30th. And if you arrive in BC earlier than January 1st, you can obtain early arrivals insurance through the GuardMe website to cover any gaps in coverage before your GuardMe plan begins. So at the beginning of the term, you will receive a welcome email from GuardMe directly. And this email will include a link to access your online portal. And this will give you information about your policy details and also enable you to submit any claims. You'll also be able to view and download this healthcare access card, which you can see on the screen. And this is a proof of insurance, and it will have your name, your student number, your policy number, and the policy start and end date. So you can use this card for clinics that do direct billing. So make sure that you have access to this, and you will need this for any direct billing or to submit a claim later. So this is for your future reference. So if there are any students in the audience who will be studying remotely from outside of Canada for the spring 2023 term, you can opt out of GuardMe for a full refund by January 30th. And to do that, you will have to go to the GuardMe website and complete the out-of-country opt-out form. So you just need to do this before January 30th. And if this applies to you, you must ensure that you will have adequate medical insurance when you do eventually join SFU physically. And for that, please get in touch with our office and we will kind of explore the different options that might be available for you. It's also possible that you already have valid BC MSP if you have been living in BC for a while. For example, you could be a transfer student, who already has valid BC MSP. And in this case, you can also opt out for a full refund of the $281 if you opt out before January 30th. And for those of you who will be brand new BC residents, you might be able to get a partial refund if you receive your BC MSP coverage before March 30th and also opt out before then. To be eligible for all refunds, you must have not used your GuardMe insurance. So that gives you an overview of your GuardMe plan. What's really important to remember is that your GuardMe plan is temporary and it's for your first term only. You need to make sure that you apply for BC MSP and you have it effective by the time your GuardMe plan expires so that you will have continuous primary medical insurance coverage.
BC MSP is provincial primary medical insurance, and all students staying in BC for 6 months or longer are legally required to enroll under the Medicare Protection Act. Unlike GuardMe at SFU, it is not an automatic enrollment process and cannot be done through SFU. If you are physically in BC and haven't applied for MSP already, please apply right away online or apply as soon as you arrive in BC. All new BC residents must fulfill the wait period of roughly 3 months before their MSP coverage will be effective. For example, if you arrive in early January, the waiting period will be the balance of the remaining days left in January, plus 2 more months, which would be February and March, which will result in your BC MSP coverage being effective from April 1st onwards. The GuardMe plan will provide primary medical insurance coverage while you're going through this waiting period. To apply for BC MSP, your current study permit must be valid for a period of 6 or more months. If you have any dependents, they can be added to your plan when you apply. The cost for BC MSP is $75 per month for all study permit holders, and this is known as the International Student Health Fee. You will receive the invoice monthly by mail, and you can make payments online. This charge does not appear on your SFU account, and you're responsible for making the monthly payments and maintaining your account. Next slide, please. Once you receive BC MSP, please ensure to keep your BC MSP account updated. As an international student, your MSP coverage will only be valid until the length of your study permit you apply for BC MSP with. Each time you renew your study permit, you must also ensure to renew your MSP coverage. In the future, if you find yourself in this situation, please remember that you can apply for temporary MSP coverage if your current study permit had expired and you're still waiting for your new study permit to be processed and issued. You can request for temporary MSP coverage for the initial period of 6 months if you apply for a new study permit before your old study permit expires. Then once you receive your new study permit, you can apply to extend your MSP coverage for the entire validity of your new study permit. Managing your MSP account also entails updating your address if you move, so you won't miss any important information, and ensuring that you're making your monthly payments. You can do all of this by visiting the MSP website. Next slide.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. So before we move on to secondary medical insurance, the key takeaways I want you all to know regarding primary medical insurance is that your GuardMe plan is temporary. So it's mandatory that you apply for BC MSP as soon as you arrive in BC. And each time your status in Canada changes, for example, if you renew your study permit or you obtain a postgraduate work permit, please make sure that you extend your MSP coverage each time as well. And then if you already have valid BC MSP, you can opt out of the GuardMe plan by the due deadlines for a full or partial refund. And then Ali will now present to you on the secondary medical insurance plan.
Thank you so much, Ishani. Folks, now we're going to move on to talk about secondary insurance that is provided to you by your Simon Fraser Student Society, and it is managed by the SFSS. Student Care is your plan administrator when it comes to your secondary health insurance. Next slide, please. All of you folks who will be starting at SFU in January will be covered for a full 8 months starting January until August of next year. So long story short, the health and dental plan is basically a medical services plan that covers you for everything that is not covered in your primary health insurance, but whether that is provided to you by BC MSP or GuardMe. The secondary medical insurance will basically fill in the gaps for those kind of medical services. My colleague Ricky has already outlined the differences between the two, and just as a reminder, international students are required to enroll into BC MSP. Next slide, please. So just to kind of give you a quick overview of the benefits that you have access to through your secondary health insurance, you have a health plan that covers you for things such as prescription drugs, vaccinations. If you ever need to see a mental health practitioner, that is covered under your plan as well. And then you have other supplemental health practitioners such as massage, physio, chiro, and so forth. A full breakdown of that is available on our website at studentcare.ca. So I encourage you folks to explore that website. You also have a dental plan that covers you for up to $700 for the 8 months or the full year that you will be enrolled into the plan. That covers you for things such as checkups, cleanings, fillings, root canals, extractions, and a lot more. Once again, a breakdown is available on the website. You have a vision plan for eye exam, eyeglasses, and contact lenses, and as well as a travel plan that covers you for academic and non-academic travels. So if you happen to be going on an academic trip, whether that is an exchange, a study abroad, an internship, you will be covered for the entire duration of that trip, and you'll be able to access insurance for any medical emergencies that you come across during your trip abroad. If you happen to be going on a non-academic trip, you will be covered for up to 120 days per trip, and there are no limits on how many trips you can take in a given year. If you, since all of you are international students, I should highlight that the travel insurance does not apply to you in your home country. And the reason behind this is that the insurance company works under the assumption that most folks already have medical insurance provided to them by their home country, similar to how that is in practice here in Canada. Next slide, please. And so the cost for the 8 months that you will be enrolled in this plan is $178.06. You don't have to worry about paying for this upfront. You will be automatically charged this fee in your tuition fee statement. So please make sure once you receive your invoice, look out for this line item, the health plan and the dental plan, the breakdown of which you can see on the screen over here, $60 and $117 respectively. Once you see this amount billed into your tuition fee statement, you can rest assured that you are covered under the plan. If you are not assessed this fee and you would like to enroll, you will be able to do that online, and I will describe that to you in a couple of slides. However, you also have the opportunity to enroll your family members in case that applies to you. So you'll be able to enroll one dependent for another $178 and an unlimited number of dependents for $356, and that is for 8 months of coverage. So starting from January up until August 31st. Next slide, please. And we will skip that as well. I just described the coverage period. So this is an important date for you to keep in mind, since you all are starting your term in January. Between January 3rd and 20th is what we call the change of coverage period. So in case you want to enroll any dependents into your plan, or you want to self-enroll into the plan in case you haven't been automatically billed the health and dental plan fee, the change of coverage period is an opportunity for you to do that. There's also an option for you to reduce your coverage level, so you folks are automatically enrolled in the enhanced plan. However, if you choose to downgrade your plan to the basic plan, it is a slightly cheaper plan with reduced benefits. You will be able to do that during the change of coverage period as well. And lastly, if you would like to completely opt out of this plan, you will be able to do that, and you will receive your full refund in your tuition fee account. The only requirement for opting out is that you submit a proof of alternative coverage. So let's say you are covered through your employer, through your parent, or through your spouse. You will be able to provide that secondary medical insurance benefits proof, and we'll be able to opt you out of that. Please note that MSP or GuardMe is not considered as an equivalent proof of coverage. Next slide, please. So there are a couple of ways in which you can claim any benefits that you would like to access under your plan. The first one and the easiest one is the PayDirect card. So the PayDirect card basically has these 3 pieces of information that the insurance company, that the provider would use to bill the insurance company directly. So let's say you'd like to go to the dentist or to the pharmacist or to the physiotherapist. You simply show them this card when you show up at the clinic or at the pharmacy, and the provider will use this info and bill the insurance company for the insured portion of the plan. You would only be responsible of paying the out-of-pocket copay section of the plan. In the off chance that that provider does not provide direct billing services and does not accept your PayDirect card, you have nothing to worry about. You can still submit, make the payment on the spot, obtain your receipt, and you'll be able to submit a claim online using the Pacific Blue Cross mobile app or the web platform. So all you would have to do is create a member profile, and you'll be able to log on to the member profile, submit your receipts online, and receive your reimbursement by check or direct deposit, whichever method you prefer. And then we also have the traditional way of submitting claims, that is the online forms. You'll be able to print these forms on our website, and all instructions on how to mail it and which address to mail it will be provided to you on the website. If you prefer to go through this option as well and require assistance, we have an office on campus in the Student Union building. We have those forms printed out for you. And so if you would like assistance with filling that out and mailing it, you can always drop by the office, and my colleagues over there will be able to help you out with that. So these are the 3 ways in which you can claim your benefits that you have access to under your SFSS health and dental plan. Next slide, please. One thing to keep in mind is the blackout period that that all of you will experience since you all are beginning your term in January, and you are first and you are fresh new students to SFU. Just because the insurance company does not have your information yet, because you are new students, you folks will be experiencing a blackout period between January 1st and February 28th. Now, the blackout period doesn't mean that you don't have access to your benefits. It just means that the insurance company will not be able to reimburse you or confirm that you are indeed covered by your plan while they are still receiving your information and uploading it into their own database. That process does take a little bit of time. Your benefits are active from January 1st. So if you go to a pharmacist, a dentist, or any practitioner that is covered under your plan, you can always submit that payment, hold on to your receipts, and then when the blackout period is over, you will be able to submit that claim online through the Pacific Blue Cross mobile app, like I outlined in the previous slide. Please note that during the blackout period, you will not be able to create your member profile on the Pacific Blue Cross mobile app or web platform. Once again, the insurance company does not have your information yet, and so that process will not work. However, once this period is over, you will be able to create your member profile and submit all your claims and receive your reimbursement. Next slide, please. Another thing to keep in mind is the BC Fair Pharmacare plan. All SFSS members with BC MSP are required to enroll into the BC Fair Pharmacare plan. If you do not have MSP, and you will be able to contact us, and we'll be able to make sure that we highlight that in your file, so that the insurance company does not stop paying out your prescription drug claims at $300. If you are not enrolled in the BC Fair Pharmacare plan and you do have MSP, the insurance company will unfortunately cap your prescription drugs benefits at $300. However, once you do enroll into the Fair Pharmacare Act, then that cap will be removed. The process for enrolling in the BC Fair Pharmacare is pretty straightforward. You will be able to do that online. You folks should receive an email if you haven't already received with the instructions on how to enroll into Fair Pharmacare. Since most of you will be enrolling in BC MSP, I believe there is a section where it will ask you whether you would like to enroll in Fair Pharmacare. You can always just check that box and it will enroll you into Fair Pharmacare. However, if you have already gone through that process and you have not enrolled for Fair Pharmacare, you can always do that later on online. It is free of charge. You don't have to pay anything in addition to the international student health fee to enroll into the Fair Pharmacare plan. Next slide, please. The last thing I want to talk about is student care networks. Next slide. A student care network is basically a group of practitioners who have basically opted in to provide students with discounts in order to access services with them. And so next slide. In the next slide, I will show you how that network works in practice. So this is an example of a dental network. As you can see in the insured portions column, you are covered for 80% of any preventative services. If you go to a dentist who is part of the student care network, you will get an additional 20% off. And that means that you will pay 0% out of pocket at the end of the day. You will be covered for 100% of any preventative services under your dental plan. Same formula applies for basic services and for major restorative as well. Even though that service is not covered under your insurance plan, you will still receive the 20% discount if you go to a dentist who is part of the network. We also have networks for vision, mental health, that is psychology, physiotherapy, chiropractor, and pharmacy. So I invite you to go to a website, studentcare.ca, and you will be able to find all these networks and the providers who are located around you. And so when you're prepared and you need to access these benefits, you will know exactly where to go, and you'll be able to budget accordingly to know how much savings you will be able to access and how much your out-of-pocket costs will be. Next slide, please. And with that, we have come to the end of the secondary medical insurance portion of this presentation. Before I pass it on to Ricky, I will just highlight that our office is located in room 2301 in the Student Union building. So in case you ever need assistance with anything related to your secondary medical insurance, please feel free to drop by there and my colleagues will be able to help you out. If you require a digital copy of your PayDirect card, please scan this QR code there and it will highlight one, it will bring up one for you. However, if you'd like to pick up a print one, you'll be able to do that at our office. And if our office is closed out of hours and you need access to assistance, we do have an online assistance center on our website. So I encourage you to explore that option as well. And now I will pass it on to Ricky to talk about SFU Health and Counseling Services.
Thank you, Ali. Hi, everyone. I would like to provide a quick overview of our services here at SFU Health and Counseling. We have a team of doctors, psychologists, mental health nurses available to help you during your studies. Please know that we're currently seeing students in multiple methods, including video, telephone, and in-person appointments. If you need to see one of our providers, please feel free to call the number listed on the slide and connect with one of our providers as soon as you can. Next slide, please. As the transition case manager here at SFU, I provide support to students from international pathways and to work with them and support them with their transition into SFU. Transition can mean many things and it's different for each person. Some of the topics I support students with include mental health, culture shock, finances, understanding different systems, the labor market, and so much more. Feel free to connect with me. I'm happy to provide you with any support during your time here at SFU. Next slide, please. At Health and Counseling, we offer a variety of programs to support you during your studies. We have programs, including group programs that you can participate in and self-guided resources you can utilize anytime, even now before you transfer in. The best thing is that all of this is free, so feel free to check out our website for more information and start improving your well-being. Next slide, please. We also have the My SSP program. This is a free mental health program available to any SFU student. You can access it even if you are not in Canada. The program is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call the number on the slide, or you can download the app from the Google Play Store or Apple Play Store and start accessing all the resources there. Thanks for listening to me. I'll return it back to Ishani.
Well, thanks so much, Ali and Ricky, for your valuable presentations. So that brings us to the end of part 1, and I will end the recording and begin the Q&A. Welcome back to part 2 of the Get SFU Ready session. Karen will now present to you on immigration requirements. Over to you, Karen.
Thank you, Ishani. And hello, everyone. My name is Karen Lockyer, and I'm one of the International Student Advisors and Immigration Specialists here at SFU. As a former international student myself, it's a privilege for me to be here to speak with you today. And I wanted to start just by welcoming you all to our SFU community. Next slide, please. As international student advisors, we are part of the International Services for Students, or ISS office at the university. At ISS, we offer non-academic advising and services to help support your transition to SFU as an international student. And you can see a list of what we offer on this slide. When I say that we offer non-academic advising, what I mean is we offer advising and information about your temporary resident status or documents as an international student in Canada. Our team of immigration specialists are licensed to provide advice on your study permit, visa, on and off campus work regulations, and more. In addition, our team also offers advice on medical insurance and navigating the Canadian healthcare system, which you heard a little bit about earlier from my colleagues. We also provide transition support and intercultural programs, and our office includes our study abroad team, who coordinate international exchanges and field schools. So lots happening at ISS. If you're looking to connect with an international student advisor, you can reach us in a number of ways, which you'll see here on this slide. We offer advising using both in-person and virtual methods, and this includes email, live chat, which is an online messaging system, phone, and also drop-in or booked appointments, which we conduct via Zoom or in person, depending on your preference. We understand that different students may have different comfort levels with accessing in-person services like advising, and we want you to know that we're here for you and we want you to feel safe and comfortable. We will continue to offer both virtual and in-person services so that we can best support you. Finally, our website is also a great resource and a place where you can find answers to many common questions. It includes immigration and medical insurance instruction guides, and there's also lots of information about study permits, visas, work eligibility, enrollment requirements, and so much more. But like Ishani, I would also encourage you to review our welcome guides for new international students, which are also on our website. They're just a great way to understand the different steps you should take to get ready for your time at SFU. If you have questions and need help and you're not sure where to go at the university, I invite you to consider the ISS office your home away from home. We can help to refer you to the appropriate SFU office if your questions are beyond our scope of work at the university. So please do feel free and comfortable to connect with us. So that's us and what we do. And we're going to move on now to the immigration section of the presentation. So I will draw your attention to, you're going to see a disclaimer on the bottom of each of my slides. And that's because particularly in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, immigration policy continues to change rapidly and without much notice. So the information that we share today is current as of today, which for those of you watching the recording is November the 7th, 2022. So you'll see here on the slide the different topics that we're going to talk about today that will hopefully help you in your journey to Canada as an international student. Next slide, please. I thought it would be useful to start with some important concepts before we get more into the immigration content of our session. So first of all, visas and permits are not the same thing, although these two terms are often used interchangeably. A temporary resident visa, or TRV, is a travel document that's needed by visa-required citizens in order to travel to Canada. Likewise, an electronic travel authorization, or an ETA, is a travel authorization needed by most citizens of visa-exempt countries, with some exceptions, to board a flight to Canada. The TRV and the ETA do not give you legal immigration status in Canada, but instead they're travel documents or travel authorizations. If you need one of these, they would be automatically issued to you if you applied for your study permit outside Canada and you've been approved. Your study permit, on the other hand, gives you temporary immigration status in Canada as an international student. It allows you to pursue your studies at SFU and to remain in Canada for a specified period of time. If you'll be traveling to Canada for the very first time for the spring 2023 term and your study permit application submitted outside Canada has been approved, you will actually receive your study permit upon entering Canada after an examination with a border services officer. Next slide, please. A study permit is a requirement if you are going to be pursuing a course or a program of study at SFU that is longer than 6 months. You must be holding a valid study permit for all in Canada components of your study program. If you are outside Canada and holding a study permit that has expired or will expire before you return, then you would need to follow the process for a new or initial study permit application and wait for approval before traveling back to Canada. For you to remain in Canada as an international student and maintain your student immigration status, it is important that your study permit remains valid at all times. This means that you may need to extend your study permit if it will expire before you complete your program. We typically recommend applying to extend a study permit about 3 to 4 months before your study permit will expire. And it's important to note that study permit extension applications can only be submitted or applied for if you are physically in Canada at the time of application. On this slide, I have listed the current estimated processing times for an outside Canada study permit application and an inside Canada study permit extension application. And this is as of November the 4th. You can also find these on the IRCC website, and they do fluctuate throughout the year. Students who may be facing study permit application delays might be wondering right now what their options are if their study permit application is not approved in time to come to Canada for the spring 2023 term. When it comes to academic options, you may be able to defer your studies to the next available intake of your program. And like Ashani mentioned at the beginning of the session, you can contact the SFU admission team for more information about this option if it's something that you're considering. Another option may be for you to start your studies remotely. Again, if this is something that your department is able to accommodate. We would recommend that you contact an academic advisor to inquire about remote course offerings available for spring 2023. But we do note that, and we want you to keep in mind that a study permit approval is not guaranteed, even if you start your program remotely from outside Canada. So it will be important for you to consider this and other factors if you do plan or if you are considering studying online from outside of Canada. Next slide, please. Moving on to the topic of transfer students, your to-do list will depend on at which stage of the study permit process you're currently in. For those of you already holding a valid study permit and transferring to SFU from another post-secondary institution, so university or college in Canada, you don't need to obtain a new study permit, provided that yours is still valid, of course. If your permit will expire soon, you will need to extend it before it expires if you're in Canada, or apply for a new study permit if your permit will expire before your return to Canada and you're currently outside. If you applied for a study permit from outside Canada based on acceptance to another institution, so not SFU, and that application is still in process, you must submit updated documents like your SFU letter of acceptance to Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada before your application is approved. You can submit this via the IRCC web form, which is available online. If your study permit application is approved outside Canada and you did not include documents from SFU in your application, but instead included documentation from another university, for example, you must then submit a new study permit application and wait for approval before you can travel to Canada. In addition to maintaining your study permit, all students transferring to SFU from another Canadian post-secondary institution are required to notify IRCC that they have transferred to SFU by completing the Designated Learning Institution, or DLI, transfer process online. You are not required to complete this process if you are transferring to SFU from a Canadian high school. Next slide, please. So now we'll move on to enrollment requirements as an international student, and we're going to start with a study permit. As a study permit holder, you are expected to comply with your study permit conditions by actively pursuing your studies in Canada and making reasonable progress towards completing your program of study. From IRCC's perspective, what this means is that you must remain enrolled in each academic session during your studies in Canada. Next slide, please. Your study permit will also allow you to legally work on and or off campus, providing that you meet IRCC's eligibility criteria. To work on campus, you must be enrolled full-time at SFU in the term that you wish to work. You can find our full-time definition for immigration purposes on our enrollment requirements website. In addition to full-time study, you must also hold a valid study permit, and that permit must include a condition printed on the document stating that you may work or that you may accept employment. As per IRCC's definition, on-campus work would mean work that you would perform at all buildings within the physical boundaries of the SFU campus. So an on-campus employer could include the university. It could include yourself if you're self-employed and located at the school. Those are just some examples, but you can review the full definition of what constitutes on-campus work directly on the IRCC website. Next slide, please. We'll shift now to off-campus work. To work off-campus, in addition to being enrolled full-time in the term you want to work and holding a valid study permit with the work conditions, you must also be enrolled in a program at SFU that is at least 6 months in length and that leads to a degree, diploma, or certificate. Study permit holders who meet the requirements to work off-campus are normally restricted to working up to 20 hours per week of off-campus work unless it's a regularly scheduled break, which we'll get to in a little bit. During regularly scheduled breaks, you may work on a full-time basis, providing you meet the criteria. IRCC recently introduced a temporary measure which will allow eligible international students to work more than 20 hours per week from November the 15th, 2022 to December the 31st, 2023. Eligible students whose study permit application or study permit extension application was received by IRCC on or before October 7th, 2022 may benefit from this measure. Each student's eligibility under this measure may differ based on their circumstances, which includes when IRCC received their study permit or study permit extension application and whether they meet the requirements to work off campus. What we recommend is that you carefully review the information about this temporary measure, which is available on the IRCC website, and then reach out to an international student advisor if you have any questions about your particular case. Next slide, please. Returning briefly to the concept of regularly scheduled breaks, examples of regularly scheduled breaks for SFU undergraduate students would include the summer term, the breaks between full-time terms, and the reading week. To be eligible to work full-time during a regularly scheduled break, you must be enrolled or studying full-time at SFU in the term directly before and after that term, and you must meet the requirements to work on or off campus. And this isn't part of the temporary measure that I mentioned before. This is just regular practice here. We recommend checking the conditions of your study permit to ensure that there is a condition stating you can work on or off campus written on the permit. If you are already holding a valid study permit without work conditions, and you're now starting your studies at SFU, you can apply to change the conditions of your study permit to request to have the work eligibility remarks added. If you are applying here in Canada, the process to change conditions is the same as the process for a study permit extension. You will also require a valid social insurance number, also known as a SIN or a SIN number, for any work that you do in Canada. This number is used for taxation purposes and is required for your employer to pay you. You will require a study permit containing the conditions for working on or off campus or a work permit in order for you to be able to apply for a SIN. Next slide, please. On that note, I wanted to briefly mention the SIN clinic that SFU is organizing. It's taking place at the SFU Burnaby campus on Friday, January 6, 2023. And we will have Service Canada officers on campus who can assist you with applying for your SIN. You will have to book an appointment, and you can do so by scanning the QR code here on the slide, and that will take you to the registration page. We also ask that you ensure you have all the required original documents with you when you arrive. Next slide, please. We're shifting now to co-op work. This is a different kind of work than the work you would perform under your study permit typically. So if you are accepted into a SFU co-op program, or if your program has a mandatory co-op internship or practicum requirement, you can apply for a co-op work permit to do your required co-op work terms. You can request a co-op work permit either when you apply for your initial study permit from outside of Canada, if your letter of acceptance confirms that there's a work or internship requirement in your program. Otherwise, you can also apply for a co-op work permit from inside Canada once you already have your study permit. Whether you apply in Canada or outside Canada, you will require documentation from SFU that confirms that there is a co-op, internship, or practicum requirement in your study program. Next slide, please. Full-time international students may be eligible to apply for a post-graduation work permit upon completing their program of study in Canada. The post-graduation work permit is an open work permit of up to 3 years in length, and you don't need a job offer or work experience to apply. You do, however, need to complete your program of study. Under the post-graduation work permit program, students are required to meet a set of eligibility criteria, which includes maintaining full-time student status during each academic term of their studies. Now, possible exceptions to this full-time requirement may be made by IRCC in a student's final term of study or during a period of authorized leave from study. For SFU undergraduate students, full-time enrollment or full-time study in the spring and fall terms is a requirement, as these are considered formal academic terms for immigration purposes for our undergraduate students. Undergraduate students at SFU may take the summer term off or study part-time in the summer term without negatively impacting their eligibility for a post-graduation work permit. If receiving a post-graduation work permit after your studies is a priority for you, we do recommend that you ensure that you maintain full-time study or full-time enrollment in each spring and fall term, starting right from the first day of your program, as we do see, unfortunately, work permit refusals in cases where students did not meet the full-time requirement. With this being said, if you do find yourself in a situation where you need to study part-time or you need to take a term off for a variety of different reasons, it can happen. Please book an appointment with an international student advisor, immigration specialist, and we can discuss the immigration-related considerations, possible impacts, and approaches for this type of situation with you. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, IRCC introduced temporary measures to allow international students to complete all or part of their studies online from outside of Canada without losing their eligibility for a post-graduation work permit. These measures were updated on August the 25th, 2022, with a reduction in scope. Students who started or will start a program of study between September the 1st, 2022 and August the 31st, 2023 are required to complete at least 50% of their program of study in Canada. For these students, up until August 31st, 2023, time spent studying outside Canada will be counted towards the overall length of the post-graduation work permit only if it constitutes less than 50% of the program. Next slide, please. We will shift gears now and speak to the entry requirements for Canada and what to keep in mind when traveling. Traveling can look different now given what we are experiencing globally. With regard to entry to Canada, as of October 1st, 2022, all COVID-19 border requirements, including vaccination, mandatory use of ArriveCAN, and testing, quarantine, or isolation requirements were removed for those entering Canada. Use of ArriveCAN is now optional, and if you are flying into Toronto Pearson, Vancouver, Winnipeg, Halifax, or Montreal Trudeau International Airports, you can still use ArriveCAN to complete your advanced CBSA declaration to save some time upon arrival. Transport Canada has also removed existing travel requirements as of October 1st. All travelers are still strongly encouraged to wear well-fitted, high-quality masks or respirators during all travel, and to avoid travel if they have symptoms of COVID-19. It's important to keep in mind, though, that if you will be transiting through another country en route to Canada, please ensure that you are informed about the entry requirements there prior to your travel, as there may still be some border measures in place. When traveling, make sure that you're carrying your passport or travel document and your study permit or study permit application approval and a TRV or ETA as needed. We also recommend that you carry your SFU letter of acceptance or your offer letter and an SFU confirmation of enrollment letter, which is downloadable via Go SFU. You can review the documents you should carry when traveling to Canada as an international student on the IRCC website. And finally, and I believe I mentioned this earlier, but if your study permit application was approved from outside Canada, your actual study permit will be issued to you at the port of entry after an examination with the Canada Border Services Agency. Next slide, please. In closing, and as always, if you have any questions, you are always more than welcome to reach out to us, and we will do our best to help and support you. This now concludes the second part of our session, and thank you to everyone for your attention during the presentation. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Karen. And that, as Karen mentioned, that brings to the end of our session today. So we will move on to our second Q&A. We will end the recording now. And for those of you who are watching the recorded version,